All right, so the Los Angeles Dodgers, of course, won the World Series last year. Came into the season as the betting favorites to win the World Series. Got off to a hot start, 7-0 or 8-0, whatever it was. But struggled a little bit, I would say. Not really struggled, but not up to their standards. But the question now becomes: have the Dodgers regained their quote unquote favoritism to repeat as World Series champions? Evan, what do you think?
Yeah, because you had the Tigers, with the best regular season record for a while, which I think they might still have by like a game and a half over the Dodgers, to be fair. And, you had the Padres leading the division, you had the Mets doing good, you had the Cubs coming out of nowhere, but tiptoe, tiptoe. Here come the Dodgers. Here come the Dodgers. Just like everybody thought. Last I checked, as of last night, I'm not sure what the result was today. They were 46 and 29, but they were playing worse than that. They've been winning a little bit more. I think they play Washington this weekend series. They'll be, Washington's been on a complete slide. They got swept by the Marlins, which just signifies their slide. So the Dodgers should have a fairly easy series again, and they're getting close to 50 wins and they're getting close to their stride. And I haven't been wanting this. I want to see more teams beat up on the Dodgers, but we need to give credit where it's due, even though they can be annoying, right? But like we need to give credit where it's due. You got Freddie Freeman still with over a 900 OPS. You have Will Smith, who the catcher, who might be their all-around best hitter right now. He's batting like 320 with over a 900 OPS. You have Hai Sung Kim, you have Andy Pages, even in like the 7 hole, the 9 hole, like day in and day out, batting close to 300. So the lineup is stacked. You have Emmett Sheehan pitching pretty well. I think he has like a 2.2 ERA in a lot of starts for the Dodgers, like 12 starts. Kershaw, old man Clayton Kershaw is still looking good. Yamamoto obviously is dominant. Shohei Ohtani is Shohei Ohtani at the batting least. Pitching wise, we saw the other night that didn't go so well. Hopefully he can get back on. But the Dodgers are stacked, and that's what I'm saying. Like the Tigers is a good story, or they are a good story, proper English, Evan. The Cubs are a good story. They've got some good bats, and those are going to be contenders. I'm not trying to gloss over that. Even the Mets, are going to be really good, but there is no team as stacked in and out of the lineup as the Dodgers. And I say here come the Dodgers. I think they're the favorites once again to win it all, at least at the current moment. If you were to ask me who is the strongest team in the MLB and who's the favorites to win it all, Dodgers for both questions.
Oh, I think the Dodgers are definitely a strong team, having Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. We talk about the big three all the time. We talk about we talk about their lineup all the time. Obviously Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez, they have been contributing a bunch to the lineup, the offense. Obviously the pitching too. The defense is really good. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, old man Clayton Kershaw, as Evan said. I like that. Clayton Kershaw pitches tonight actually against the Washington Nationals, so we'll see how that game goes. Yeah, I agree with Evan. I think the Dodgers are the favorite to win the whole thing again. Obviously like I said, we talk about the big players, and that's about it. And the hot streak that they're on right now. So I think the Dodgers will definitely be close to, the World Series again, if not win it.
So I mentioned in the open that, the Dodgers had started 7-0, 8-0, what it was. But, Padres leading the division. Um, they were on a little bit of a slide, not up to Dodger standards, but they've started to rebound. During that time, you had the Phillies, Cubs, the Mets, all those teams, the quote unquote favorites to win the World Series. But you just look at the Dodgers, they're just way too talented. As Jake mentioned, you got Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, big three in the lineup. You have guys like Teoscar Hernandez and Andy Pages, contributing. And we even saw Shohei Ohtani back on the mound. It didn't go as planned, but just seeing him back on the mound gives the Dodgers a little upside, I believe. So to me, they are the favorites again to repeat. 2024 and 2025 World Series champions. Yes, I'm calling my shot. I believe the Dodgers will win the World Series, but um, yeah, this Dodgers just to me are the favorites again.
Okay, so I think the Dodgers are the favorites again. Jordan's predicting that they'll win the World Series. So all around, we've got pretty big optimism for them. Unfortunately, I'd like to see a different team. So that's going to bring me to, I guess, what I want to talk about also is like who could challenge them the best. And I actually think, based on the structure of the team, I think it's the New York Mets. I think they have a good bullpen. I think they have a deep lineup. I think they will be a team that's willing to actually make a trade at the deadline, which is important. A lot of World Series teams, what are they? They're usually one piece away at the deadline, and it's up to getting that Aroldis Chapman like the Cubs did in 2016, or I'm sure there's more examples I could think of. But like, it's up to them to get that final piece, and I think the Mets will be willing to make that. Their lineup's good enough. They've got power with Pete Alonso. They've got good situational hitting, and I trust in Edwin Diaz more than I did 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We'll put it this way. He's not a meme anymore. He's a little bit better, but the Dodgers are still my favorites. That's why we're doing the subject. I think the Dodgers are back. But if you were to ask me a team in the MLB and to stop them in the World Series or the NLCS, I'm gonna take the Mets as the best chance. But what do you guys think?
All right,
Yeah, well,
so
obviously I
you're
would. I'm sorry, Jordan. Go ahead.
okay. So if you're asking me, who's going to who would potentially stop the Dodgers from getting to the World Series, I would say, I would actually start with who wants it, who really wants to, right? The Padres have, been there last couple years. 2020, 2022, I believe they actually beat them in a playoff series last year. The famous 29 innings or whatever it was without a run. The last 8 innings of game three, not any runs in games 4 or 5. So the Padres will be chopping at the bits to get to the Dodgers. But I'm actually going to go with the New York Mets. Their pitching staff has been strong this year. You added Juan Soto. You've got him, Pete Alonso, Nimmo, Jeff McNeil in the starting lineup. So for me, it's the New York Mets. And as for who can beat them in the World Series, I'm actually gonna go with the New York Yankees for like honestly. Yes, it's a boring pick, but you know I really like their addition of Max Fried this offseason. Yes, they lost Juan Soto to the Mets, ironically, but pitching wins championships, so I'm gonna go with the Yankees.
Well, obviously, if you were asking me about a team that would stop the Los Angeles Dodgers from making the World Series, I would say it was a team with a star pitcher on the mound. Obviously, I can't say that because the Pirates suck, even though they do have Paul 4-6 with a 1.78 ERA. I think of yesterday
Don't worry, Paul
in
Skeens will be a
the
Dodger
sixth
by
game.
2027. You don't got to worry about that, Jake.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's probably gonna happen, but Jake,
Well,
continue.
but Paul won't be a Pirate by 2027. I can tell you that right now. They're definitely going to try and trade Paul. They got to build around their young guys. Um, and Paul is a young guy, but
Exactly.
they gotta do something because they're wasting his best years by not getting him one support. So they gotta do something. Um, no, but I think if a team can beat the Dodgers in the World Series from the AL, I would say it's the Detroit Tigers. Tigers have a great lineup, especially headlined by Spencer Torkelson at the top of that lineup, and believe it or not, Javier Baez. And then they obviously got a great pitching staff, headlined by Tarik Struble. Sawyer Gibson Long, has obviously pitched well. Montero has obviously pitched well. Just all around, the Tigers, I think, are a pretty good team. The Tigers have the best shot
Yeah,
being the Dodgers in the World
Jake's bought
Series.
into the Kool-Aid of the Tigers, but I will say though, pitching matters in October, and the Tigers do have some very good pitchers. So that's what matters. And I do want to throw in one more because Jordan mentioned this is that the Padres beat the Dodgers in the playoffs a couple years ago. Then the Diamondbacks swept them in 2023. So maybe here comes the San Francisco Giants. I mean, they did just trade to get Devers. And now, they've already been a pretty good team this year. Are they better than the Dodgers? No, not by a chance. But, the Dodgers in their division and the playoffs hasn't worked out sometimes. So, give me the Giants maybe for a sneaky team there. Yeah.
Well, the Giants always used to be good, just short of the Dodgers for the NL West.
Yeah, and the
Maybe that would be
2021
the
series where they both won 100 games was pretty entertaining too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Let me just say the end of that series was terrible with the check swing on
Oh yeah,
one.
that was a terrible call. I
yeah,
now I'm
yeah,
remembering
yeah.
that, and that was in San Francisco. Yeah, that was you can't make that call in the World Series. That was or not World Series, the division series. That's the playoffs. That's terrible. Yeah,
That's unacceptable.
golly.
Yeah, it was just an insane call.